It's undescribable. There's a huge blast. It seems to be on everybody's bucket list to shoot a 50 because it's the biggest.
It's not your average rural property with a tourism sideline. But a growing number of gun enthusiasts from across the globe are travelling to a remote pastoral station in Western Australia to shoot high-calibre firearms. And in particular, this one. After 3 years of drought conditions, the red dirt of the Gascoigne region near Carnarvon is finally flourishing. It's been tough going, but the wheels are now turning again in a region that has a rich history in sheep, cattle and goat production. It was the freedom of the wide open spaces of a pastoral station that in 2010 attracted Shane Almore and his father Spencer to make an 800 kilometre move from a farm near Perth to Ellavalla Station. But their dreams of building a drought-master cattle herd almost immediately went up in smoke.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a baptism of fire. It was a steep learning curve. You know, realistically, I was as green as grass when it came to fighting fires.
An unusually large bushfire burnt for 4 months and scorched thousands of hectares of Gascoigne pastoral country. In the process, it wiped out most of Ellavalla's feed and destroyed fences, water points and yards. Shane and Spencer had to quickly find another way to make money to rebuild their business.
I came up with the idea that I could get recreational shooters in and value add my goats, get them to come in, shoot them, and they take them away. They use them as meat. We've got a couple of Italian families that come and make sausages out of them, and it took off.
The father and son then decided to step up to target shooting with very high-powered rifles. It was a natural fit for Shane, given he's a licensed firearms dealer. These days, the shooting range at Ellavalla is a tourism drawcard, but it began as a fire break, cut to protect the shearers' quarters during the 2010 blaze.
But the shearing shed was the next main asset that we needed to protect, and that fire break was there, but it had grown over, so we recut that. So we actually had a grader operator from the junction, Rodney Drage. He got on the grader and pretty much worked all night recutting it. And when he finished, he actually came up to me when we'd done and we're looking at this fire break and we're about to set fire to the edges of it so that it'd pull up the fire, and he said to me, "Wow, that looks like a range." And he was a shooter, like he was a keen shooter. And I looked at it and said, "Well, yeah, would be if it was only another blade wider." And he said, "Well, I've got to drive back." So on his way back, he did another cut, and what you see as our range is pretty much what Rodney put in.
The range is a 2.7 long kilometre straight. It's the longest non-military range in Australia, and tourists have travelled from as far as Singapore to shoot a 50 calibre rifle. It's understood there's only about 100 of these 50 calibre rifles privately owned in Australia, and 2 are at Ellavalla. Ownership is tightly regulated. To get a licence, you must pass a number of extensive background checks. And they're expensive. A 50 calibre rifle retails for about $20,000.
15-bit BMG is pretty much the largest commercially available rifle that you can buy. And it's unique. It's loud, it's got just the right amount of recoil, so it's not unpleasant. And shooting it over long range is very technical and very challenging. So,
why is it so appealing though? You were telling me it's on people's bucket list. Why?
Yeah, it seems to be on everybody's bucket list to shoot a 50 because it's the biggest. It's what everybody wants to do, and just the feeling of it is It's undescribable. There's a huge blast. It's the same as a quarter of a stick of power gel on the ground, let it go off a metre away from you. That's what it feels like.
It's one of the few places in Australia where people can shoot a high calibre rifle. That's because it's so remote and big. Ellavalla's range sits in the middle of its 116,000 hectares, and that provides enough fallout space for the bullets.
Just to experience shooting a 50 cal and learn as much as I can from all these experienced shooters.
And how was it?
Amazing, really good. I enjoyed it.
Worth the trip?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not always smooth sailing for the Almores. The government diversification permit that allows them to host tourists has to be regularly renewed. But Shane is determined to continue his unique blend of cattle and firearms tourism.
I think diversification is the answer, especially for the small pastoral leases that, according to the Department of Ag aren't viable. I think they are viable. You just have to think a little bit outside the box.